Happy Tuesday to you. Welcome to Tech Insights with yours truly, Brian Cochran. We're here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're here to talk about various things in tech. So, from software to cameras, video, switchers, audio equipment, uh, and more. It's every Tuesday at 6. Today, we have a wonderful show that you saw in the thumbnail. And we talked about thumbnails last week. So, praise God for that. So, anyway, today we're going to be talking about having problems with your audio on your stream or your live stream, and today we're going to talk about how to get the right audio mix in your live stream. That's what our focus is today. And I work with as you probably know by now. I do a lot of installs with, especially since COVID, it kind of exploded, and so I have a lot of streaming systems that I put in, and then folks have already put in streaming systems, and they wonder why they're having issues. And I said, well, let me, we talked about the basics of a system, and so I said, well, maybe I'll deal with a little bit today on the problems that you're probably having, and which is the problem that most of us have when most folks that do it and don't know how to mix how audio and how the audio and video works, especially coming off of, because as I started from the beginning, we started off, if you had a camera, you had a capture card, you went directly into the computer. And so this was the next step. If you're in a church or some type of broadcasting that we talked about audio interfaces and that kind of stuff. And so I figured today we'll deal with getting your band, your speaker, if you're using a mixer. And this is an analog mixer. I figured I'd use that first and start with that, basically, because it's the same thing with digital. With the digital, it's a little bit, all the settings are the same, every way you set it up. But I figured most churches and most of us are on an analog board, so I figured I would do with that. And there's only a minor difference between that and using a digital board. So why won't you? Oh, there we go. That's why. There we go. So usually what happens is, if you look, and I'm going to make this larger so that you can see, you'll need to see me. Let me do this and I'll talk as you see it. You'll see the two red boxes. On the two red boxes, this is an analog board. On this board, which is a Mackie 2442, this is the back of the board. If you look in the red boxes on the upper left-hand side, it says main outs. So those are 1/4 inch outs, and then down below there is a mono main out. So depending on how you set it up, you may have put it in one of those two, or I even forgot about. There is a tape out. If you look right in the middle underneath the channel 2122, below that, there's a tape out there. So there's RCA there, 1/4 inch to the left, and then XLR down in the middle of the board. So normally what happens is you would put it in one of those because you think that the mix that you have coming out is it's a stereo mix or a mono mix, depending on what you're doing, and that's a great mix coming out because that's what you hear. But let me put myself back up. But the problem is that the mix on your inside a room, as an engineer would do, he will compensate for instruments and other stuff. If you're just doing vocals, then it'll work. If you're only doing vocals and no other instruments, then it works fine. But if you plan on bringing in the band, like I showed for the very beginning, I showed at the slide before this where you had a band and then they go into the mixer, and so the mix is different, and that's probably why you're wondering why is it that the vocals are way up here and the instruments are way down here. And that's because let me go back. Let me do this. One second. So what happens is, if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's a board there. That's the front side of a Behringer 24-channel board. And it doesn't matter what board, because it's almost all the same. You'll have, and I'll show you what the differences are. But anyway, what happens is, if you look 1 through 24, those sliders are going to be different based upon what's in the room. So, say for instance, you'll have your man. I should have done this live. I do apologize. I'm gonna do better. I should have had a mixer here so that way I could have shown you exactly what I'm talking about. But if you look on the mixer, what will happen is an engineer is doing the mix. The drums would be way low because the drums in the room are already loud. So you need to add more volume to your front of house speakers because they're already loud. Or like if you have an amplifier, a bass has a bass guitar, bass amp, or a guitar amp, anything that's amplified, the engineer would compensate. It would be lower in the mix. So what happens is, because of that, the mix is going to be off because based upon how the engineer mixed it, those volumes are going to be really low, and then the vocals are going to be high because the vocals are not amplified. They're using a microphone, but you got to amplify the microphone, and you got to raise on the slider. They're going to be raised up higher. So what happens is that mix going out is a mix based upon what's in the house. It's not what's actually for a stream mix. So you need something that's separate that will give you your own mix for the stream only. And we do that through what is called an auxiliary. So let me go to the next slide and I'll show you what that is. All right. So if you look on this mixer, it has two auxiliaries. One, the lime green or the fluorescent green ones. Those are the auxiliaries, aux outs or mono outs or mix outs for this board. So what happens is you would use that and raise those up and do the mix separately for that, and you can do those a lot more equal because that mix is only for the stream. And so let's go to the back of the board so I can show you what we're talking about there. So if you look on the back of the board, it will go into where the arrow is, and that is a aux in or an aux out, and it will go into one of those channels. So a lot of times what will happen is your monitors are through an aux. It's not through a main. So slight side note, just did an install just recently, or did a retrofit. We installed a new video system, and then they had an audio system in there, and we'll probably do that next week, where they had the mains and the monitors all on the same mix problem, and so they were getting feedback problems, and they're wondering why they're getting feedback problems. But that they needed to EQ and put that on aux, which we're doing right now. So on that aux, it allows you to do your own separate mix, just like we showed you on the other. On the front of the mixer with the sliders, that's those are sliders, and then on the auxiliaries they're knobs. And so on those knobs on a analog board, so on that board you would put it in. So usually what would happen is your monitors, your front of house, your pulpit monitor would be on one, your band would be on 2, 3, 4, and then so this only has six auxiliaries. So you would put it in one of the other auxiliaries that are on this board. So let me go back to, so then if you look where the red box is, rectangle box is, you would raise those up, and that will give you the mix. Oh, shoot, I am so sorry. I'm acting like y'all can see, and I can see it myself, and you can't. There we go. So if you look at the red box, let me go back to the other one because I know you didn't see what I was talking about. Let me go back over there. All right. So if you, no. There we go. So on the aux out, which is where your monitors are, if you look at the arrow, in that little area there it gives you on a Mackie 2442, it gives you 6 auxes. So that means you have 6 auxiliaries that you do their own mixes. So say for instance you got a guitar, a bass, a singer, drums, or a band mix or something like that, because only 6 that you would have one for the stream. So we'll say channel auxiliary 6, which I'll show you on the next one. Oops, went too far. If you look on the rectangle there, right there you see where the auxes are. So that's aux 1, and on this board I did 2 different boards just to keep it simple, because the other one has 6 of them. So I said, let me just keep it as simple as possible. So if you look at that one rectangle there, that one rectangle is aux 1, and all the way across, if you look at the below there, or above, 1 through 24 are there. So you're able to do your aux mixes there, and then you bring them up based upon what the mix is. What you do is you have a pair of headphones on so that you listen to the mix while you do it, or matter of fact, you will go to, let me go here. So what would happen is you will go into this, which is a audio interface. You will go out of, versus going into monitor speakers, you will go into this, which is called audio interface. And so you will go into channel 1. This will be a mono out. And then what you would do is, if you look, it says direct monitor down below that, you would put headphones in there, and so you're able to listen to the mix. And so that allows you to hear the mix as you put it together. So if you're hearing the band play, then you mix it according to that, and then when you stream it out, it goes into your mix. So what happens is, it goes from your, if you're looking at the, let me take myself out of the picture so that way it's just the. There we go. So it's from left to right. So it starts in. So your microphones and stuff, your microphones, drums, instruments are all plugged into the mixer. It goes out of the auxiliary into your audio interface, and out of your audio interface, it has what is called a USB. And so with that USB, it enables you to plug it directly into your computer. And from your computer, it goes out to the internet. And so that's the basic way that it goes. And then so you're able to monitor it through. And this was a mono out. So you can do a stereo out based upon what you're doing. Most of the time, I set them up for mono because most of people are listening to on the phone, so you don't get the separation anyway. So the more than 50% either watching on the phone or a tablet, less people watching on the home TV or on the computer. So even with that, it's still mono out because it's not doing a separation in most cases. And so it's not unless you're doing real instruments and so forth. But for the sake of for what we're doing here for streaming, I would do mono anyway because I found that trying to do stereo, keep it balanced and extra wiring and extra trying to configuring it. For on my side, it's easy, but for somebody to do troubleshooting and so forth, it's easy to do monos, not to mention most of the signals are going out as mono anyway. So that allows you to get your mix out, and that will correct the problem that you're having with your systems, with your system, wondering why you are having this issue with your instruments being way, way, way down here and your audio being way, way up here if you are actually doing a live band. If you're doing just regular, speaking, just if you're just doing a podcast with no instruments, then great, then it works. Then you can go out of, as we showed you before, you go out of one of the main outs, either the one of the that I showed you before, and that way you can still stream. You don't have to worry about trying to EQ it, because the EQ for that is great because it's the same mix as there, because you have to compensate for what we talked about earlier. So those are the basics of doing it. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up down below. Let me put up my contact information. So that way, if you want to reach me, where did it go? Where are you? Nope, that's not it. Where did you go? Oh, there it is. There we go. So you can contact me. That's my contact information there. So hit me up there. And if you have more information, if you need more information on how to configure your system and what an aux is, if I went too fast, let me know. Then I will gladly go back over with you, or go back and watch this again and again and again. Faith come by hearing. And so if you hear it, the more you hear it, the more you get assured of it, how it works. And this will help you to get rid of the problems that you're having, that most churches and most folks that are setting it up and not setting it up different through an aux. There are some systems, on a side note, like the Behringer board or some of your digital boards, that has what is called a matrix mix. And so the matrix mix, you're able to, through software within the system of the mixer, you're able to also go ahead and change it where you're able to do the mix within the system to get it right way without having to do it the way we're talking about today. So, but most of us are on a analog board, and because we're on an analog board, that's the reason you're having the problems that you're having, is because you're putting on the main mix. If you're doing it with a live band, again, I'm going over it again because I want to make sure you get it. That's why you're having the problem. So you have to go through an auxiliary, and once you get to the auxiliary, that will take care of the problem, and then your mix is through your auxiliary. So don't forget. Let me put it up again so that way you see what we're talking about. That's the system. You can use any audio interface. This one's Focusrite. This is probably one of the better ones that are out, but Behringer has one, and there's a ton of them out there. But Focusrite is probably it's a little bit more expensive. That one there is probably $79, $80. And it goes up to, you can get up to to $500 or more. But you want something that's clean, and it converts it from analog to digital to go into your computer. And once it gets on your computer, then you stream it out to the internet. And that's the best way to do it without having the problems if you're using a live band. If you don't have a live band, then you can use, let me go back up one more time. So let me go back to the other screen real quick to show you that. You can go back to, you You can go to your main, no, this, there we go. You can go back to your main outs on your board. So it's either the left one, the center one. And again, I'm using a Mackie board. Most of these boards will have, this one has a couple different ways of going out to front of house. And so the first one is the main ones are XLR, which are balanced. And then there's a mono, which a lot of times is used for sub, to raise up your subs, and then or a side fill or something like that. Or you can run a mono mix, but then for us using for streaming, you can use either the mono out or you can use the mono unbalanced on the top left-hand side, so that way you can do it. Or it says right in the middle of the board, some boards have a tape out. Well, most boards have a tape out. So you can also use the tape out if you don't have a band. If you have a band, then you're going to go back to, one more time, you have to go back to using a audio interface, and that's the setup again for that. So that way you're able to get a nice clean mix and be able to hear. There's more than, you can go even deeper from there, which have a whole, you can also, depending on the board, like digital boards, and I won't get into that. I'll stop there. We'll get into digital boards another time. That's it for today. And I hope you enjoyed it. Something been said that will help you to grow your tech ministry and be able to save money as you do it by learning how to do it through us. And my name is Brian Cochran. God bless you. We will see you next week on Tuesday. Tech Insights.